There is a village so remote that mail arrives only once a year. Residents must hike for days just to reach the nearest road. On a tiny island in the Pacific, fewer than 50 people live thousands of kilometers from the nearest continent. When someone needs a hospital, they wait for a ship that comes once every few months. These are real communities where isolation is not a choice but a way of life. By the time we reach number 1, you will see why some call it the most remote inhabited place on Earth. In an age of instant connection, some people live completely cut off. No airports, no highways, sometimes no electricity at all. Reaching these places requires days of travel by boat, helicopter, or foot. Yet families have lived there for generations, surviving against all odds. Here are 10 of the most isolated places on Earth where people still live. 10. Itakortamit, Greenland. On the frozen eastern coast of Greenland, a small town clings to life. Itakortamit is surrounded by ice for most of the year. About 450 people live here, hunting seals and polar bears to survive. The nearest town is hundreds of kilometers away across frozen wilderness. Helicopters and boats are the only way in or out when weather permits. Located on the eastern coast of Greenland, population of approximately 450 people, accessible only by helicopter or boat, surrounded by ice most of the year, one of the most isolated towns in the Arctic. 9. Sapai Village, United States. At the bottom of the Grand Canyon, a Native American community has lived for centuries. Sapai Village is the most remote community in the contiguous United States. There are no roads leading in or out. All mail and supplies arrive by mule or helicopter. Waterfalls surround the village, creating a hidden paradise. Home to the Havasupai tribe, located at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Mail delivered by mule train. About 200 permanent residents, only accessible by foot, mule, or helicopter. 8. Longyearbyen, Svalbard. Halfway between Norway and the North Pole, a town of 2,000 people endures polar nights. For months, the sun never rises above the horizon. Longyearbyen has a university, shops and restaurants, yet polar bears roam nearby. Residents carry rifles when leaving town for protection. Dying here is technically illegal because bodies cannot decompose in the permafrost. Located on the Svalbard archipelago in Norway, experiences 4 months of complete darkness. Polar bears outnumber humans in the region. Home to the global seed vault nearby, one of the northernmost permanent settlements. 7. La Rinconada, Peru. High in the Peruvian Andes, a mining town sits at 5,100 meters above sea level. La Rinconada is the highest permanent settlement on Earth. About 50,000 people live here despite freezing temperatures and thin air. There is no running water or sewage system. Miners work in dangerous conditions, hoping to strike gold. Sits at approximately 5,100 meters elevation, the highest permanent human settlement. No formal sanitation infrastructure. Temperatures drop well below freezing. Economy depends entirely on gold mining. 6. Oymyakon, Russia. In the Siberian wilderness, a village endures some of the coldest temperatures on Earth. Oymyakon once recorded -67 degrees Celsius. About 500 people live here year-round. Cars must run constantly or their engines will freeze solid. Glasses can freeze to faces, and thrown boiling water turns instantly to ice. Located in the Sakha Republic of Russia, coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth. Winter temperatures drop below -50 regularly. Ground is permanently frozen. Permafrost. Takes 2 days to drive to the nearest city. The places ahead are even more cut off from the world, reachable only after days of travel across open ocean. 5. Easter Island, Chile. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, giant stone heads stare out at the sea. Easter Island is one of the most remote inhabited islands on the planet. About 8,000 people live here, over 3,500 kilometers from mainland Chile. The nearest inhabited land is Pitcairn Island, itself extremely isolated. Supplies arrive by ship or occasional flights from Santiago. Located in the southeastern Pacific Ocean, famous for nearly 900 Moai stone statues over 3,500 kilometers from Chile, population of approximately 8,000, a single airport connects it to the mainland. 4. Pitcairn Island, British territory. Fewer than 50 people live on this tiny volcanic island in the South Pacific. Pitcairn is home to descendants of the famous Bounty mutineers. There is no airport and no harbor. Visitors must transfer from ships to small longboats to reach shore. Supply ships arrive only a few times each year. Population of under 50 permanent residents, descendants of HMS Bounty mutineers. No airport or safe harbor. Supply ships arrive approximately quarterly. One of the least populated jurisdictions on Earth. 3. McMurdo Station, Antarctica. On the frozen coast of Antarctica, a research station operates year-round. McMurdo is the largest community on the continent. About 1,000 people live here during summer, dropping to 200 in winter. When winter arrives, no planes can land for months. Residents must be completely self-sufficient until spring. Largest research station in Antarctica operated by the United States. Winter population around 200 people. Cut off from air travel during polar winter. Has a fire station, gym, and small stores. 2. Alert, Canada. On the northern tip of Ellesmere Island, a military outpost watches the Arctic. Alert is the northernmost permanently inhabited place on Earth. Fewer than 100 people staff the Weather and Signals Intelligence Station. The nearest village is over 2,000 kilometers away. Darkness lasts for months, and temperatures plunge to -40. Located only 817 kilometers from the North Pole, northernmost permanent settlement on Earth. Population varies from 50 to 100 personnel. Primary function is weather and military monitoring, resupplied entirely by air. 1. Tristan da Cunha, South Atlantic. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a volcanic island rises from the waves. Tristan da Cunha is the most remote inhabited place on Earth. About 250 people live here, over 2,400 kilometers from the nearest land. There is no airport, and ships take about a week to arrive from South Africa. Mail comes only a few times per year, and medical emergencies require ship evacuations. Located 2,400 kilometers from St. Helena, population of approximately 250 people. No airport exists on the island. Ships from Cape Town take about 7 days. Officially recognized as the most remote inhabited island. You have just visited 10 of the most isolated places where humans still live. From frozen Arctic outposts to volcanic islands lost in endless ocean. We climbed to the highest town on Earth, endured the coldest winters in Siberia, and descended into a canyon village reachable only by mule. At the top of the list, Tristan da Cunha stands alone in the Atlantic, weeks away from anywhere, home to 250 people who choose solitude over connection. Which of these isolated places would you dare to visit? Could you survive months without fresh supplies in McMurdo or Alert? Do you think living so far from civilization brings peace or hardship? What would you miss most if you moved to Tristan da Cunha? If this journey to the edges of the world fascinated you, tap like and subscribe for more. Soon, we will explore the strangest borders on Earth, where invisible lines create bizarre and unexpected reality.